Welcome to Women in Tech with Suraya Turk, a podcast dedicated to women who are scaling opportunities, breaking barriers, and rising to leadership. I'm your host, Suraya Turk, Chapter Director, Women in Tech UAE. In this first episode, launched in celebration of International Women's Day, we're diving into the realities of building and advancing a career for women in tech. Our episode, Empowering Women in Tech, Breaking In and Moving Up, is all about how women can navigate challenges, seize opportunities, and make an impact. I'm honoured to be joined today by Amnah Ajmal, a globally recognised leader in the financial sector and payments who has held executive roles at Mastercard, Standard Chartered and Citibank. Named as one of Forbes Middle East 100 Most Powerful Businesswomen in 2024 and 2025 consecutively, Amnah has been at the forefront of business transformation, digital innovation and financial inclusion. She's paved the way for more women to lead in tech. Today, we'll be discussing her career journey, insights on leadership, and the strategies women can use to break in, move up, and thrive in the tech space. Amnah, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And today we'd like to explore a little bit more about your journey and how you became a woman in tech, or how you pursued that career, because it's not every day that we speak to women like yourself who have pursued a tech career but also excelled into it. So I want to begin by asking you a little bit about your journey and what was your maybe ambition or passion or goal to move into this fintech career?
So whenever you're little and someone asks you what you want to become, I would always say a lawyer, because I thought I would be a very good lawyer. I always had logic and rationale, and I was always very curious about things. But then I was told I can't be a lawyer by my family. My dad was like, look what they do in courts and all of that. So that didn't happen. Then I wanted to get into FMCG. And P&G rejected me, Unilever rejected me, Nestle rejected me, so that didn't happen. My parents wanted me to go to a medical school, and my grades were really terrible in biology, so all medical schools also rejected me. So I did not want a career in finance or tech, but that was the only industry that actually accepted me.
Okay, interesting.
So thanks to all who rejected me, because I love what I do today.
Fantastic.
So it was accidental, I have to say, from day one, joining at Citibank and in an international career. I was blessed, Citigroup made me the leader who I am, and I was blessed to work with such amazing, incredible leaders. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that the world of financial services, banking was just incredible. There was so much to do, and I'm talking about the era where internet banking was just about to take off. Mm-hmm. And it was a big thing to say now banks are 24/7. I know I make myself look so old now, but that was the case. And having a career that spanned across 14 different countries, Middle East, Asia, Europe, US, it has been an incredible journey. And then moving from consumer banking to technology and payments, so I have no regrets looking backwards.
Amazing,
but yeah, it was a ton of rejection that led me to
where you are today.
To where I am.
That's a very interesting story, but no doubt still inspiring. So although you were pushed almost, I think it was just the universe leading you into the career that was a fit for you. I think it's no doubt inspiring that you pursue it, and you pursue it with excellence, and as you say, it shapes you to the person you become today. So can I then just hone in a little deeper, and let's go to what are the defining moments or challenges that really shaped your path within the industry? So fast track, you're in the industry, you're starting to work now, there's great leadership, but there has to be a defining moment where you then step into that leadership role. What was that defining moment for you?
So I think there were two moments. First of all, when I started my career, unlike a lot of my other colleagues where they were allowed to work and they were doing it for a job, I burned a lot of bridges because I wanted to work with my family. So for me, it was the stakes are very high if I was not successful. So I focused a lot in the early years of my career on gaining content, working really, really hard, learning a lot of things that are even not part of my job. And I think that paid off later on, because I was while my peers were focused a lot about the next promotion, the next grade, the corporate ladder, I was just focused on, oh my God, I got this opportunity of my life. I need to make the most of it. I was so happy that I get a salary and I can feed myself.
Okay.
So for me, it was more about, really having a lot of content, becoming a subject matter expert at several things. I would be called into meetings earlier on. Oh, she's the only one who knows the answer, probably, earlier in my banking days. That's because
wow.
People got to know that I have a lot of knowledge. And early on in your career, I think that's a very, very powerful thing, that you get known for that, right? So I think that was kind of not a defining moment, but it was kind of a force that pushed me to actually focus a lot on my learning and content, because there was no way of going
So
back.
almost like to become the expert in that subject matter.
Exactly.
You were the go-to. There was no
Yes.
two ways about it. Amnah
Yeah.
was the one with the answers.
Yes. And that
Fantastic.
helped me a lot, because it also at times gives you very early on in your career exposure to a lot of senior people, because a meeting going on and nobody knows the answer. They were like, okay, just let's pull an Amnah. And then, I come in and I
Nice.
answer all the questions, and I had that confidence to articulate my point depending on who the stakeholders were. So, that kind of gave you exposure early on to a lot of senior people, which I think fast-tracked my career. But it was also about, if you talk about the defining moment, it was also moments where I really doubted myself. Like I remember I was living in Cairo, and the CEO had resigned, and then the one down of CEO had resigned, and then the two down of CEO also was not there. And I was the four down of the CEO, and there were people coming from the headquarters. So all of a sudden our CFO said, oh, well, you would be presenting and making the deck. And I'm like,
wow.
I'm like the junior most person that you could get hold of. And there's
that's
such big
opportunity.
stakeholders coming. And then I was like, wow, this is a great opportunity. So I think I worked on that. Of course, I knew the numbers very well, but I worked on that presentation maybe like 48, 52 hours, like nonstop.
wow.
Like I gave everything that I had to it. I went to a lot of people to take their comments and feedback who were not even part of the business, but just from outside to see how you look at it. And then I presented it to the regional team, and the meeting ended. And I remember the regional CEO walked out, and he's like, what are you doing in Cairo? You should move to London.
Wow.
And there you go. I had like only
London,
3
here we
years,
come.
3 years into my career, I got into the headquarters,
Brilliant.
And I think, so of course, it was for me, it was like, wow, like I'm like just 3 years into my banking career, and then I was offered a double promotion, which they were like, oh my God, your grade is so junior, we have to upgrade your grade. And I landed up in London in the headquarters. So I think those were a few defining moments, but I would say that a typical way a person would enter the corporate today, thinking about the corporate ladder and climbing it, that was not my mindset. My mindset was whatever is thrown at me, I would just take it and do my best at it. And risk was non-existent for me compared to the risks that I had taken. Like when I was moving from UAE to Egypt, people were like, oh, it's Cairo, you're a single woman, talking about 2005. I mean, UAE is such a great place, why would you go to Cairo? Then from London, I was getting promoted and going to Poland. People were like, oh, London is a headquarter, why would you go to Poland? So I think for me, the risk of like, as a single woman, changing countries every 2-3 years was not a risk at all, which I think to a lot of people would be a risk, like
risk,
men
yes.
or women, right? For me, it was like,
yes.
a colleague of mine said, like, you change countries like you change apartments, but it's like you have to set up yourself by yourself from scratch in every country that you go to,
So
right?
it sounds like you didn't let any challenge stop you. So whether it was, building a career in an industry that's male dominated, or having to travel alone and move around, for somebody, I guess, with your background, you're saying they didn't even let you do law because they thought that was not fit for you. And then there you are, Amnah, breaking and shattering the glass ceilings and just opening every door that there is, which is amazing. Very inspirational. Thank you. And that kind of leads me to my next question. So you've gone into the role, you've gotten a double promotion, you've moved to London, and then you're moving to Poland, and all these changes happening. Now, in the tech space, that's quite common because the tech space is evolving so quickly, and you're evolving just as quickly as it's evolving, it seemed. But how do you stay ahead of the trends and advancements for somebody who's entering into the career now? What advice would you give them?
So the pace of change, was very different in my 24-year career. If I break it into 2 decades, I think it was very different in the first decade versus the second in the last 4 years. I think there's this famous quote. I think Bill Gates said it, that people often overestimate the change that will happen in the next 5 years and underestimate the change that will happen in 10 years, right? So if I look at the last 10 years of my life, I wouldn't have thought that, people would be having pets in metaverse, like artificial pets. My colleagues, their kids have a cat, just like, like virtual gardens, and you'll be making money off virtual gardens, or even the fact that 52 million people in the world actually have an AI bot companion. I mean, these things 10 years back were
unheard of.
So I think the pace of change is like largely underestimated because we just have a horizon of 2 to 3 years, and that's what we think about, right? Now, I think in technology, financial services, payments, I would say it's a very interesting time, and I feel privileged to be living in these times because I think there's not only a technology shift, but there's a massive generational shift, right?
So true.
Like in my days, like working for a corporate and saying that, I work for Citibank or I work for this particular organization was like a matter of pride, You talk to the Gen Z today, and I was in Poland and we were going through a research paper that Central Eastern European did a study on, and most of the Gen Z does not want to work for corporates. So there's kind of a shortage of talent because now corporates have to attract that talent and tell them, hey, we are good, this is what we offer you, right? In our case, it was like I got into Citibank, and I remember everybody from my university was like, wow, you're going to be a banker, you're going to work at Citigroup. It was like
such
a
big
matter
deal.
of pride, yes. But that's no longer the case. It's the reverse, right? I mean, you can make a 6-figure income by just generating content on YouTube, right? So it's so many portfolio career opportunities. I mean, you can make career by not even being a human being. Like they're like AI-based models who are making a 6-figure income.
Exactly.
So it's a totally different world now, and it would continue to become more and more different and difficult. So I think my advice to people for technology would be there are lots of buzzwords at any point in time. There was like a crypto wave, there was a buy now pay later wave, now there's an AI wave, and these things will come and go. Yes, some will stay and scale, some will go. More important is to have 2 particular abilities. One is to take a step back and connect the dots in the landscape, in the consumer's life, in the B2B businesses, to spot where are the gaps where life can be made easier or a problem can be solved. And a problem should not be that you and your friend only feels is a problem, like majority of the people should feel that's a problem, right? That's a very important skill set. It will help you in corporate, it will help you in entrepreneurship, it will help you if you're an SME. The second is the agility. You don't need to, like I'm a coder, so I used to code because my bachelor's was in computer sciences when all medical schools rejected me. But, I learned I learned to code in Pascal and COBOL, which are not like the languages which are used now. They're pretty obsolete. So, but I have that coding mindset, but I don't learn to code now. I can because I learned coding and I was a coder. But I focus more on understanding the business part of how I can leverage technology. So I need to understand technology enough. I already know the problem that I want to solve, and then I already know aspects of technology that can help me solve this problem, right? And you connect these two and you have a very, very powerful solution. And I think that's what the tech world is about. I think many people invest in technology, like upgrading their skill set and investing their time because it's the thing, right? But how do you apply that the thing? Like, it cannot be a solution looking for a problem. It has to be the other way around.
Correct.
So I would focus on really these 2 things. And then, of course, there are other traits that come as you grow into leader, but you need to have them. I think the most important one, I would say, is humility. Because in today's world, no one has the answers, and you don't need to have the answer. You need to have the ability to ask the right question.
I agree with you 100%, and I'm so glad you said that. Go on.
So the right answers will come from ChatGPT or Meta AI or wherever. But like children, they only ask questions. They don't tell the answers, right? So the ability to ask the right question is absolutely critical. That's why you need to be humble enough to know that it's okay to ask questions. And the second thing I would say is empathy and compassion. Tech is tech, but I always say technology is created by human. Aliens didn't come to this planet and gave us technology, and now we're like, it's not that human. What should you do about it? No, we created it, right?
Correct.
So keeping that human and compassion element as we enter into our corporate lives or build businesses.
Brilliant, brilliant. And I think that takes us into our next question. I love that you've touched on it. Being a woman in tech, would your answer change to that question? I mean, you've just said the two most important things are empathy and, keeping it real and being really human in this tech world. And then the other thing is ability to ask questions. Now, that sort of is advice that I think applies to everybody.
True.
But would there be specific advice that you would give to women who are pursuing in their tech career, or does your advice remain the same?
So for women, my advice would be totally different.
Okay.
I think I'll use an example of today. I was with a big client and we were in a meeting, and there's a super talented, smart lady in finance who is my finance partner. And it came to introductions, and actually there were only 3 women in the room, and there must be like 14 men or so.
Wow.
And she introduced herself like this. She said something along the lines of, I look after finance for these segments, and of course there's a big team, that does this together. And then there's another lady who was sitting next to her, and I love what she did, because if she had not done it, I would have done it. She said, no, let me reintroduce her because she leads all our financial deals, and then I added to her. So it was such a small example, and it just happened today, right? So it comes to my mind,
Okay.
just like 2 hours before. It
Brilliant.
came to my mind that women have this tendency, and it's proven through research, that they undermine themselves when it comes to their content. This introduction was a good example, but even when it comes to achievements, like I would tell you till now, when people congratulate me on a certain award or recognition that I win, I really don't know what to say. At times I have rehearsed it in my head, like today the Forbes recognition for 2025 women came out, and I'm there, and I know people were congratulating me. I was like, oh, thank you very much, thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure, it's an honor, right? But I don't know how to handle praise. I don't know how to handle when people talk about my success, right?
Almost like really own your achievement and feel the pride and sense of joy.
Yes, that's just hard for women. I see such talented women, and they would begin the sentence by saying, if I may, a stupid question, but let me ask it anyways, right? I think these are little things. If you observe them in your environment, you would notice that there is an inherent problem in confidence, right? So the first thing I would say is, from your posture to the way you walk into the room, to the way you command the room. You need to have content, right, as that's the foundation of it. But if you know what you're doing, you have that content, then command the room. It's important, right? There are many times when in meetings I have to say, I use this a lot, but I have not finished yet. Okay. I don't see men doing that, but I think I have to say I do not have a very loud voice, right? Physically, I occupy a very little space in a room. I'm a woman, but also I'm smaller, I'm petite, right? I know my gender is not really favoring me, but I also know that my age and looks are not favoring me.
Oh, right? Don't be harsh on yourself.
Yeah. It's a reality, I mentor women like all over the world, and I had a woman who was talking to me, and she's from Southeast Asia, and she said that for one of the roles which she did not get, the feedback given to her was, oh, you have like a 30-year career runway, you're so young, what's the problem, And she said, how old do you think I am? The HR person said, me 28. And she's like, I'm 39.
Oh, wow. What a difference.
I've already worked for 20 years. But you see, so first thing is awareness that yes, these biases exist, and how I would actually at least make sure I am acting so that these biases are not coming into play for me, right? So confidence, content, speaking up in meetings, introducing yourself with a lot of pride and confidence, self-belief, raising your hand for promotions. Don't find more mentors. When so many people come to me, would you mentor me? I'm like, don't find a mentor, find a sponsor. There's a huge difference. Find a person who has the authority and the seniority to give you the next big job and is talking about you in the room where those roles are being discussed and you are not in the room. It is so important, right? So when it comes to women, we usually talk about, oh yeah, she needs a mentor. But when it comes to men, we are like, oh yeah, I think they've done a pretty decent job. They need the next job, right? I don't blame anybody because I think it's so inherently built into our societies, like a woman is described as a nurturer, a carer, a man is a decision maker, a breadwinner, right? So the words that are being used for the two genders are very, very different. So it would take a while, but I have confidence and hope and a lot of optimism with social media, with a lot of awareness, a lot of corporations talking about it. We would get there, but I think each one of us has a responsibility to raise our voice and talk about these things.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Such interesting points that you've made, and I think just your experience today. I mean, the fact that continues to happen in boardrooms and places where women are introducing themselves and having to speak up is so interesting, but it's so relevant, and I think it's relevant to everybody that's moving, or young women that are moving into that tech space. So, with that, what strategies would you say have helped you advance in your career? So you made a really interesting point that I loved. You said, don't find a mentor, find a sponsor. And was that a deal maker for you? Is that something that helped you in your career, or from
so
moving
I
from
think,
one?
I got sponsors along my journey while I was not looking for them, but you could call it like I was fortunate. Right?
Okay.
It happened because I had a lot of content. I was very result oriented, so it was easy to spot me.
Okay.
Right, and I could attract those sponsors. But the other thing I would say is that if you break your career into like blocks of 10 years, I think the first 10 years you have to build content. You have to be good at something. You can't just be a generalist. Right? Now, it could be you are good at processes, it's customer experience. It could be that you're good at financial acumen, but you have to be good at something, right? This next 10 years is about building on that strength and actually becoming a leader, right? And then that strength takes a back seat and more your brand as a leader comes into play, right? The last 10 years are really asking about the right money and the right pay for what you deserve, which actually women also don't do. Yeah. So that's how I always thought of my career. Like people in the first 10 years like, oh, this person promoted ahead of you. Are you worried? I'm like, I don't even know if they got good for them, Like my focus was so much around that I need to understand like the crux of banking. I really need to understand the compliance. I need to understand how investment operations work. I need to understand how contact centers work, how auth systems work. There was so much about gaining knowledge, right? I moved to the payment industry. It was the same thing. I was like reading the rule book. I was like getting my hands on anything that could actually educate me about what the industry is, surrounding myself with people who were smarter than me so that I could learn from those people, And I think that was kind of also a leadership stage to build yourself and your brand as a leader. What do I stand for? Like Amnah can't just be, she runs these segments and 80 countries and she runs this size of P&L. No, that's a business definition, right? When today, if you would ask people who have experienced my leadership, like someone said to me, you lead with a heart and you lead with a purpose, That for me is very, very fulfilling but it's coming in the third decade of my career.
Yeah. I love what you've just said. And so my next question is going to be on this. The last 10 years of your career is all about now asking for the right amount of money to show for all the hard work that you've put in the previous 20 years.
In the middle,
that?
In the second decade also, I tell people, because you already have developed that subject matter expertise and you're known for something, so you should. I think women in general they feel bad about negotiating, right?
Yeah.
And there's also research that proves that if women negotiate, they are considered greedy, and if men negotiate, it means they know their worth.
They're just asking for their value. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think this is a real issue that a lot of women struggle with. And as you said, the stats show that always males in all industries, not just tech, it's much easier for them to ask because, one, they ask, so they get what they ask for. And it's less likely that women will get it because most of the time they don't ask. But even when they do, the fact that they're female in that tech space, they don't get as much. And that's true for other industries as well. So it does come down to how well you can negotiate and how well you can almost convince that employer that you're worth that big paycheck. So this is for all those women who are in positions right now that are maybe not being paid what their worth is. How do they ask for what they want and what they deserve?
First of all, knowing what you deserve is very important. And I think as long as you work with one employer for 30 years, you would not know what you deserve. So I always tell people, test your worth out in the market. Okay. You should know what your worth is. Exactly, your benchmark. Okay. Otherwise, I don't know what I don't know. And that's it. It starts and ends there, right?
So true.
The second thing is, which if you have that content and you have that delivery and you have delivered those results, right? Then that should give you confidence. But still, if you don't feel that you're surrounded by people who uplift you, you won't be able to negotiate a good salary. Right. So there's a saying that you're an average of 5 people around you, right? If 5 people around you are bringing you down or cribbing and complaining about their own issues, yesterday a colleague of mine said that, Amna, you really have an abundance mindset. At times I have a certain budget to spend, and at times I give the same to 3 people, right? But I am counting that only one would be able to spend it, right? So what I'm trying to say is that confidence and content is one thing, but then you need to surround yourself with people who would uplift you. So many times I have conversations and a woman would say to me, oh, I think I can do that role, but before I do that role, maybe I need to do an extra year in this role. I'm like, why? She's like, oh, because this person told me, my manager told me. And I'm like, let's look at your manager's career. Okay.
Yeah.
Did he do that many years? If I am where I am in my early 40s, the next generation could be there in their mid-20s. And that's perfectly okay. If everybody will not reach the success at the same time, right?
True.
I became a people leader of a massive, huge team, 300 people, leading Citibank's largest P&L in Europe. I was 28. I was myself embarrassed to walk on the floor. I was like, oh my God, I look like 18. I hated the fact that I looked so young,
So
and
impressive.
I'm the boss of 40-year-old people and people in their 50s are reporting into me. So confidence, content, then surround yourself with people who uplift you. So women who talk to me and they're like, oh, I am going for this job. There was a woman I was mentoring her. She was moving from Switzerland to Singapore. And she said, this is such a great offer. I said, they have kept some in their pocket. Ask for more.
Ask for more.
And she's like, no, this is so good, Amma. Just look at it. This is beyond my expectation. I said, ask for more. And she's like, but how do I ask now? Because I already said it. This is great. I said, go after 2 days. Say, I took a step back. I looked at it. I studied the cost of living in Singapore and the cost of childcare. And I think this much extra should be added. And then she got it. And she didn't get all that she asked for. She got 60% of what she asked for. But I said, you were settling.
Fantastic. Exactly. For less.
Right? And from her point of view, it was great because she wanted to relocate the country. She wanted to leave Switzerland. She wanted to go to Singapore. She has 1 daughter. So the husband was also relocating. So for her, it was like, oh, thank God I found a job in Singapore. Oh, thank God the salary is decent.
Yeah.
Settling
She's
for
just
less.
willing to settle, yeah.
Yes,
she could have so much more. It was her limiting beliefs.
Exactly. I would tell every woman this. Okay, Also say, what's the harm? What's the worst case scenario? Because in any decision making, I look at the worst case scenario. It's like, what are you going to lose?
That's it.
That you are where you are.
Exactly. I love that. So true. So that's how we negotiate for our positions. Once we're in that position where we have content, we have confidence, now we've negotiated a great big paycheck, then how do we go from there to even greater heights? How do we push that glass ceiling when you're in that space?
So it's to find your brand and find your purpose. So one thing is that you're doing a job and there's a corporate behind you and you have a title, or even if you're an entrepreneur, it's a company and it's you. But then you need to have your brand. What do you stand for? Especially if you've already stepped into a leadership role, right? So for me, maybe reframing my crucible of being the first woman in my family to work and have independence from a financial perspective, as well as having an international career. Mm-hmm. If I can do that, I can help other people achieve their dreams, and I am a leader. They spend most of their time at office. I could do that. Then when I later on moved more to the Middle East and Africa part of the world, I realized, oh my God, women are so disadvantaged. It can't just be that I'm helping people in my leadership position achieve their dreams. It has to be about uplifting women, mm-hmm. right? So now if you would ask anybody, it's like, yes, Amnah is very passionate about this. It does not matter which corporate I work for. It does not matter if it's part of my job or not part of my job. It's something that I stand for, right? And it's easy because you have social media, you have so many platforms available mm-hmm. to actually share your voice. Now, I'm not saying that you need to have, like somebody was asking me, but I don't feel passionate about anything, right? Mm-hmm. That's also fine. Maybe in your job, there is something, I don't know, you re-engineer processes all the time. So maybe that's something you want to talk about. That's something that you would be known for as a leader. Mm-hmm. Maybe you believe in leading Gen Z in a particular way, and that's what you have a very passionate belief about. You read a lot about that, you research it, and that becomes your brand identity. But I think you need to have that because many women would put their head down and say, oh, I'm giving 18 hours to this job, I work so hard. But that's like a hygiene thing. That's like a foundation.
Got you.
So you need to have your presence felt. Don't leave a meeting room. I always say that. I've said it 100 times without saying anything. It's very hard for women to network. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying just show up at every networking event. But if there's senior stakeholders coming to corporate office, make sure you set up a one-on-one. You introduce yourself. You talk about your work. You exchange ideas, mm-hmm. I've never seen a junior or a senior person that I've spent time with, and I did not find a takeaway that was inspiring. At times people come to me that, oh, we would like to talk to you and get some advice. And in the end, I find it so inspiring that I immediately make a note out of it, right? So meet people so that you open your mindset, you develop a different kind of a skill set, which is just to absorb from everywhere that you can. Build your brand that has to be separate from the corporate that you're working for. You have to stand for something.
Yeah, you need to be seen and be heard as an individual in your own right.
Correct.
Not just that you're working for so-and-so or, this corporate. Correct. Now you're standing behind that. But you show up as who yes. you are, because you're adding value to that corporate, not necessarily only the other way around.
But this is also harder for women, and it's harder because women cannot show their vulnerabilities. Because someone asked me that at what stage you started being so open, so authentic, right? Mm-hmm. Because aren't you scared that when you show your vulnerability, you will be judged, right? So, and it's a very good question that I think, are women judged more? I don't know. But yes, if women are already perceived to be more emotional, and then on top of that, you're sharing your vulnerabilities. I know many times in the beginning, at least not now, when I was talking about my story, I would have tears in my eyes. And would people judge me based on that? Probably yes, they would. Because maybe most men won't do that. Mm-hmm. But it has to come naturally to you. At that stage in my career, I was very confident about what I've achieved and what I stand for. And if some people are the ones who would judge me and actually would treat me based on that, let it be. I don't care about it.
Fantastic. Like, is tech now the industry that every woman needs to be in and show up in? Like, is this what your advice to be, or to women generally? Because this is the times that we're moving to, or would you still say, no, follow your passion, whatever that is, whether it's in tech or not?
You need to be passionate about what you do.
Okay.
I do think so.
But is there anything right now that is separated from tech? I mean, tech is almost infiltrated in every single industry.
True. So I would say that tech is like, it's a means to an end. It's not an end in itself, right? Mm-hmm. So if let's say you're fascinated by fashion, okay, so then you're entering the fashion industry. Not from the fashion industry, picked up a wrong example, but whatever. Let's say...
No, but even then they use tech, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's say there are different aspects in a fashion industry. It could be designing, it could be event organization, it could be actually the physical retail shops planning and all of that. Then you have to see within that, where are your expertise, what like really fuels you, what really motivates and inspires you. And then to enhance in that particular field, you will need technology. But you see the technology is like coming in a way at the end, it's helping you achieve your goal. It's a means to an end.
Yes,
it's like it's an enabler, right?
Yeah.
But if
absolutely.
I'm in an industry which I don't feel passionate about, and I was like, okay, this industry is using this particular, like AI is being used everywhere, right? So if you want to be an expert in AI, then for sure the logic, the algorithms, this should be something that actually you are excited about. It's very hard in today's world, especially for women who also have childcare responsibilities in a lot of cases, to give so many hours and excel at something that you don't enjoy or like.
So the key thing is must enjoy it, must like it, but then also look at how technology can be used to enable you to be more efficient, to excel, to get better, quicker, faster in what you're doing.
Yes. And to remain relevant. So going back to my brand thing, right? Like when I took over the job and there were like so many industries I had to look after. I can't be an expert in all those industries. Of course, I have big teams. But it was also, okay, how do I remain relevant? So, I started investing a lot of my time reading and understanding about AI, even taking special designated courses at universities in the middle of the night for that. But I think remaining relevant is extremely important. Whether it's your industry or not, whether I'm obsessed with that technology or not, but you should be able to hold on a conversation. You should be able to have some information and knowledge about that.
Yeah, very powerful piece of advice, I think, going into the era that we're moving into, with technology being so prevalent in everything that we do, regardless of what industry that is. So thank you for that piece of advice. I think the final question is, Amnah, for women that are moving into tech, or women already in that tech space who are working in organizations that may or not be supporting them in their careers, what is the responsibility of that corporate organization to support women in tech? Because as you said, it's not just about the woman sometimes and maybe her confidence or her content or the mentorship. Sometimes it's also about the opportunities that are given to them, and that has to come from somewhere. So is it the responsibility of these corporates and organizations to also make space and make room for women to move into tech and to excel?
Of course it is. It's a huge responsibility. And I think there has been a lot of positive progress in that space. Like we saw gender pay parity coming into play in the last few years. Equal slate policy, Mastercard has it. But I think at the end of the day, corporations can put these policies in place, and there'll always be a way that you can actually bypass the policy. It's just like when you rely a lot also on public sector, right? That a government should regulate this. I do think that you need a breed of leaders that genuinely really believes that this is a problem and it needs to change. Because at the end of the day, you may be working for a corporate, but you're not working for a corporate. You're working for an individual. People. I always say that at the end of the day, when people go homes to their families, anybody in my floor, I have this huge responsibility. They can go happy to their families, or they can go really stressed, right? So if you as a leader think that that's my responsibility, and you see your floor, it's like majority men, like 75% of my team is women, most of my directs are women leading big P&Ls. But
impressive.
It's also about the risk-taking ability in leadership. That not all of them were 100% ready, right? But it's an internal candidate. You can take a risk on them, right? Creating those examples so that actually they will then again create those examples, and the next generation of leaders that they develop would again, at least most of them will pay it forward, right?
True.
That for me is critical. Now that doesn't come from policies. Nobody is asking me that 75% of your team should be women, right?
Okay.
Nobody is asking me that actually, I think promotions are happening, let's promote more women than men. That's not a policy, right? But I make sure when I'm looking at talent, first of all, I need talent across the organization, not only just my team or my directs or my two downs. I can assess, and I want more and more people in my meetings so I can really get closer to the talent and understand them. I think you need leaders to be who are vested in talent. You need leaders who see that, oh my God, in this meeting, there are only 2 women on the table. There's something wrong, you know. I have some fabulous client dinners and I'm the only woman in the room, you know. And I think at times that how many people around the table would be thinking that actually I am the only woman. Listen, it's great. I have all the respect and admiration from my clients, for which I'm really, really grateful. But corporations need to have that breed of leaders who will believe it from their heart. And I think that's what we are missing. That's what we need.
Absolutely.
They are the ones who will create more examples, and then next layer is going to create more examples and more examples and more examples, you know. Yesterday at a podcast, at an event, I was saying that in my 24 years of career across 14 countries, 42 bosses, I only had 1 woman boss.
Wow.
And
just goes to show
incredible.
the underrepresentation of women in tech. But we, Amnah, with your support and all the other women that we're going to be hosting on this show, hopefully, are going to be changing that around with awareness and inspiration, because this was nothing short of inspirational speaking with you.
Thank you so much.
And I really am grateful to have had you and a part of Women in Tech on this show. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I thank you so much for coming and attending.
Thank you so much. It was
very
lovely
welcome.
talking to you.
Thank you. What an incredible conversation with Amnah Ajmal. Her journey and insights have truly highlight what it takes to break in, move up, and thrive in the tech industry. From navigating challenges to seizing opportunities, she's a testament to the power of resilience, innovation, and leadership. If today's conversation resonated with you, don't forget to follow, subscribe, and share this episode with other women who are looking to scale their careers in tech. Let's keep the momentum going. Connect with us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. Be part of this community of women who are driving innovation, creating opportunities, and shaping the future of tech. Thank you for tuning in to Women in Tech with Suraya Turk. And until next time, keep pushing boundaries, owning your success, and lifting others as you rise. See you in the next episode.